What's up, Integrity family? We're back with Hacker Heroes episode number 6. And I am excited as always, and today I'm excited about David Lee. And David Lee is a little bit better known under his name, DC Cybersec. And with that, let's hear what he has to say. Hey David, how's it going? Nice to
Good.
have you on the show.
Yeah, man. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How's it going in Australia right now?
Pretty good. In my city, it's going pretty well. Some of the other cities not so well with different lockdowns and things occurring. But on my
Right.
side, pretty good. Yeah, nice weather. It's nice and cool for once. The 3 weeks of the year where winter is kind of like actually winter. So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, thanks again for being on the show. Tell me and the audience a little bit about yourself. Who's David Lee?
So I my internet persona is DC Cybersec or alias maybe. I have been working in cybersecurity for around 6.5 years now. In IT in general for around 15 years, I'd say, and or almost 15 years. And yeah, I have this YouTube channel, DC Cybersec, where I talk about all things security, usually non-technical, because I like to put a little bit more of a focus on the day-to-day life and general advice side of things. In my personal life, I guess, I just work mostly contracts at the moment, as well as working through various startups and small businesses that I have going, which definitely keeps me busy.
That sounds very exciting. And we're going to talk about those a little later. For now, I'm wondering, how did you get into IT security? How did it all start?
It all sort of started by accident, to be honest. So it was about 6.5 years ago. I was working as a network security engineer in a government agency here in Brisbane, Australia. And at that time, there was a project that was coming up to implement a couple of firewall stacks and some network security related hardware and software configurations that needed to be done. And as part of my job in network security, I was sort of introduced to next gen firewalls, as well as a little bit of reverse engineering and some malware analysis, which are definitely more in the cybersecurity realm rather than the network security realm. And at this point, it was still quite an early industry. It was very early stages as far as cybersecurity goes, but it sort of sparked an interest in me where I'd been working in networking and just sort of gotten towards network security. And I thought this actually seems pretty cool. Maybe this could be something I could get into. Maybe it'll turn into a bigger job one day. And yeah, I just sort of jumped on board and completed that project and started managing those new to me systems, which I found very, very interesting. So I kept doing that, and yeah, a few years later, I was working for other government agencies in newly formed SOC teams and some field operation stuff as well. And yeah, it's all just been a very fun ride since then.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And you've stayed in IT security ever since, right?
Yes, yeah. Or more recently, more towards automation and DevOps type work, but still mostly around cybersecurity.
Sweet, cool. Can you? I know you've just said before you're working on a lot of different things, but can you explain to me and to the audience what your typical day at work looks like? Like just maybe the most typical day that you have.
Sure. The most typical day for me would be I get up, I would go to work and arrive at roughly 8 a.m. My contract at the moment, and a typical contract for me, is usually in an offensive team within a SOC, where I'm doing some sort of threat hunting role mixed in with a bit of incident response and a little bit of pen testing here and there. So that's a typical day, all the way through to 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. I would come home and chill out for a little bit and wind down, and then I usually work on a couple of my own personal projects, if it's a YouTube video or on one of these startups that maybe needs a little bit of love and care to keep going. That's a typical day. I then go to bed at roughly, 11 or 12 at night, and rinse and repeat.
And we're in that whole day cycle. Where is the coffee?
The coffees, there's more than one usually. So usually around 6:30 a.m. and one at around 3 p.m. just before the cafes close.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
The coffee is important.
It's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. I do have a couple of entrepreneurial questions for you. So you have co-founded multiple and run multiple businesses, right? So what was the trigger for you that made you become an entrepreneur?
I guess the trigger for me is finding a problem in a process and then figuring out how to make that problem not a problem, or to at least make it a little bit easier. So most of these ideas come from, for example, with the AirDesk startup, which is a co-working space startup. The problem that I found was when I was trying to run these, a couple of other startups prior to AirDesk, I was looking for co-working space, and coming out of a contract and having no real income was a massive issue, and finding a space to work in away from home where I could have all of the benefits of a co-working space were pretty limited. So I came up with this idea to turn spare spaces of cafes and restaurants and pubs into micro co-working spaces where people could work from, they could hold events, and where I could work from, essentially. I wanted somewhere to work that had a good and secure internet connection. So the idea was sort of born. What we ended up doing there was rolling out these Wi-Fi devices that were all meshed across every host location in Australia. And people were working from those at the time. Since COVID, not so much. But people were sort of working from those cafes, organizing meetings. They all had internet access. But the main benefit and the cool part that made it sort of different from anything else was that a percentage of the income that I would make from membership fees would go directly back to the cafes or host venues, depending on how long someone actually spent at those venues. So, for example, if you went to a cafe and you spent 4 hours there, they would receive 4 hours worth of money from that particular member. So it sort of incentivized them to have maybe like 20 people in a meeting, and that those cafes were trying to bring in more and more people. So it kind of solved the advertising model as well as the membership. And the biggest issue, which was that cafes didn't want people sitting around for 4 to 8 hours a day and only buying one coffee. So it's it was a kind of fun idea that turned from
like
something very simple,
like the Airbnb for meeting rooms and
exactly
space.
So that startup's still going. It's been definitely hit with COVID, but it's still going and soldiering on, which is great. And so that's sort of where my ideas come from, is trying to solve a problem that I witnessed or heard about.
What is if you look at like especially the early stages of founding a company, what would you say are the key challenges that you faced and that everybody else is going to face if you start off?
Yeah, I found the biggest issue for me was being introduced to the right people to be able to not just build these systems, but also to have these sort of systems running at. So bringing in those first few clients is quite tricky. And of course, money. The financials can be quite tricky as well. where sometimes you have to put in a lot of money with potentially no return.
Mhm.
You can get investment and things like that. But again, without a really good idea and some really solid planning behind it, you're unlikely to get a grant or any sort of funding. So often bootstrapping is the only option. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think those were the two biggest issues. You're actually another one is that time seems to slip away from you, where you're spending so much time on something and it just sort of it goes away from you eventually, and it's hard to manage time as well.
Right, I can imagine. Especially if you're in Australia and you have the ocean sitting in front of you, like you're tempted to go for a swim, but then you gotta work.
Yeah, yeah. All the deadly animals are in the ocean though, so there is that.
Do you see like specific character traits somebody should have in order to found a company? Is founding a company something everybody can do, or is there something that you should have or need to have?
I think it should be something people want to do. Maybe I think everyone can run a company, but if you want to or not is entirely up to you. I think drive, like having your own drive towards completing the task that you've given yourself, is very important. And being quite resilient to failure. I would
Mhm.
say, yeah, to definitely be prepared for to potentially fail, because it's a pretty high percentage of failures of startups. So there is that as well. Don't get too caught up if your idea doesn't work. Maybe you can change it into something else, or something similar, or go laterally and yeah, work it out from there.
Sweet, cool. And is there anything specific people should be prepared for when they start to found their own company? Is there anything they can do? Fine.
Yeah, I think yeah, definitely being prepared for failure is the number one thing. Also being prepared to maybe not have an awful lot of money coming in, but to try and see the bigger picture. That's yeah, try and stay positive, and uh, at the end of the day, every shot you don't take is a shot you're going to miss. So it might be worthwhile sticking with it and keeping it going. I saw an
Mhm.
article yesterday or the day before about the Pokemon Go founder who said his overnight success wasn't actually overnight; it was a 20 years overnight
Wow.
success story. So if that's anything to go by, that would be my advice to anyone who wants to start up a business, or potentially take over another business from someone else if they have the funds available to them.
Right. And something nobody can take away from you in the end is the experience that you've gained. That is of
Exactly.
massive
Yeah.
value.
100%.
Sweet. Nice. I want to talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, your YouTube persona, and social media in general. You
Sure.
already told us that you go under the name DC Cybersec. Where was that coming from, by the way, just to start off?
So DC is a name that I was nicknamed way back when I was in primary school. So I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And it came from at my school, there was another David Lee, who also went to high school with me as well. And his initials were DL. And everyone at the time had their initials on their hat and their bag, because we all had a uniform that you had to wear. So yeah, it sort of came from that. My hat said DC Lee because my middle name is Christopher. So no one said DC Lee. Everyone just started saying DC. And now most of my family call me DC. All my teachers in school call me DC. I rarely hear my own name unless my mother is calling me. So it's I hear DC far more often than I hear David. Even
Okay.
in a professional environment, some of the people at work call me DC because they either watch the YouTube channel or Brisbane's quite a small place. So I do know some of them from a while back that I either studied with or whatever.
Yeah, that now makes a lot of sense. When I
Yeah.
heard it for the first time, I thought of the movies, the DC movies,
Oh,
but
okay. Like Marvel, DC. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's your middle name, easy. Um,
Yeah.
what are you covering on your YouTube channel?
I mostly cover at the moment CTFs and general day-to-day life information. So, for example, asking or answering the question, what sort of certification should you maybe aim for to get this particular job or to skill up in this particular area? I find this advice is quite easy to make, given that I've done quite a few of the certifications myself, and have been in positions on different like hiring positions within certain organizations to help people get in. So I do have a fairly good understanding, I think, of the requirements that are in real life for these exact positions. So giving that sort of advice, I think, is easy for me, having been in those positions before. So it's easy to digest, it's easy to talk about, and it's something that I'm fairly confident to talk about, which makes it, I think, a little bit more personable than perhaps talking about like hacking tools or different types of techniques to use, which is, I mean, I do that all day, and I don't really want to talk about it when I get home after work each day. So if I'm going to stay positive within cybersecurity, I'm going to talk about the things that I really do enjoy, and not so much the technical stuff that is going to sort of burn me out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can totally relate to that. Don't know if you know, but your most successful video, and I'm speaking like 5 times more views than the second, I guess, is called "A Day in the Life of a Cybersecurity Specialist." Were you
Yes.
surprised how successful this video got?
Yes and no. So that video at that time was just a good video at the right time. I was watching some other channels at the time that weren't cybersecurity; they were more software engineering, data analytics type channels, and they were doing day in the life videos, and I really enjoyed them. And I thought, hey, I could probably do my own version of this, put my own swing on it. So yeah, I made
The
that
cybersec
video.
version, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, hey, why not? I don't see any cybersecurity day in the life videos. Maybe I'll make one of those videos. And it was actually one of the earlier videos on my channel. And it turned out to be quite successful. Probably, yeah, like you said, 5 times more successful than any other video I've ever made. So yeah, that was good. But there was a lot of drama with that video, actually, to be honest, which was getting approval from the people I worked with to allow me to put that on YouTube, because I know
Really?
I put in there saying like, if in the video there's a bit saying they wouldn't want me to film in this data center type thing. They didn't know at the time that I was filming, but I showed them afterwards before releasing it and said, is it okay for me to release this video? And I had to cut a few bits out and blur bits here and there, which were, I guess, foresights that I hadn't seen or thought about when I was making that video. But once it was released, it did really badly for the first 2 or 3 months. And then out of nowhere, it picked up, and it started gaining a lot of traction.
It's the crazy YouTube algorithm that nobody understands. Like,
Yeah, I have no idea how it worked, but one day I saw my views were like, I was averaging like 20 views a day, and then it shot up to around 5,000 views a day. And I was
wow.
like, oh wow, okay. I was like, whoa, is this what viral video is? Or yeah. So I
Yeah.
wasn't, yeah, it was a bit shocking, but yeah, it's kind of fun.
Cool. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. On which topic in Somersac do you see like the biggest need to educate people through video on YouTube?
I think in the programming and scripting side of things, I've seen a lot of questions recently about different languages and how deep into programming you should get, and um, what sort of tools should you make, and all these sort of things. And I think better education around that topic would be a good thing to cover.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. Do you receive a lot of hacking related questions on social media, not necessarily just on YouTube, but maybe also on Twitter and Discord and whatever else you're using? And what are people asking
Really.
if they do?
Not really, to be honest. I think because of the style of video that I've made, I do get a few questions in my Discord server for technical, quite technical questions, and I answer them as best I can. But on Twitter and Facebook, which I never really use, and Instagram, and even YouTube, most of the questions are directed more towards career advice.
Okay. So you're their preferred mentor for career advice. That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. It's worked out well, actually. Yeah.
What was the biggest surprise you got in regards to your YouTube channel, your online persona?
My biggest surprise is in the Australian market, I didn't realize there was so many people interested in the industry, and so many of them who are nearby. I will never, I think, ever get used to seeing someone in the street who, they see you walking past and they're like, DC Cybersec, and you're like, who the hell are you? And they're like, oh, what's your YouTube? And you're like, oh, right, yeah, that's right, YouTube. I forgot. What, why did you watch it? What's wrong with you? Did you have nothing better to do with your time? So, yeah, that's the most surprising thing, is being noticed in public, which is it is rare, to be completely honest, but when it does happen, it's very shocking, and I never thought anything like that would ever happen in my entire life. So
are those encounters any weird, or are you just saying hey, hello, and you keep going? Or
I usually, I'm like, oh, I have a chat, and they're like, oh, I'm this person in your Discord. I'm like, oh, cool, yeah, we talked like a few hours ago. So yeah, it's just it's a bit random meeting someone who knows you, but you know absolutely nothing about them. Like you think their name is Potato Sec or something like that, and you're like, sorry, oh, you're Potato Sec, right? Okay, that's right, yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to get back a little bit to hacking related questions. As you were saying, you are also a penetration tester. Do you have a favorite vulnerability class?
I would probably go with SQL injection as my favorite attack. Yeah, only because it's also one of the most common ones I see in the government organizations I work with. So I have a few little tools. They're just custom scripts made up, which seem to work across most of the organizations I work with.
Are you're not using SQL map?
No, not really. Okay. No, it's a self-made tool.
Self-made, okay, homemade, nice.
Yeah. It's a little homebrew. Yeah.
What's the first thing you do when you approach a new target?
The first thing I would do is as much recon as possible. So for example, if I've just gone into a new environment at work and like a brand new contract meeting, all of these systems for the first time, I want to understand as much about them as possible so I can write as big a report as possible. So I really do put a lot of effort into the report, but 3 or 4 times more effort into the recon stage to make sure I'm not missing anything. Although, of course, I probably do miss things because there's so much that you can look at, especially when you're looking at a organization with, however many different services across it. Yeah, so recon, number 1, report writing is the second biggest thing I would look at.
Yeah, and for recon, like, what's the biggest number 1 tool that you would say is a must to use? What's the thing you use most?
It depends. I would say burp/zap for all of those things, because they do cover quite a bit themselves. I do have my own little recon tool as well, which is available on my website, which is just like a enumeration tool. So
Okay.
it runs a enumeration and then matches it up against a CVE automatically, which is quite nice and useful to have.
Cool. Was there any tool that you've added lately to your entire box of tools that you're using?
There's an update to one that I've done recently, which was a PrivS through PowerShell tool. There was a bit that I had to add to that, only because I recently changed my daily driver at work from a Windows machine to a Linux machine. It's just Ubuntu. It's nothing special, and it was, I had to make some changes to that script to be able to run in PowerShell 7 Linux version, which is slightly different to the Windows one. So yeah, there was a few changes in there to run now cross OS, but yeah, that's the most recent tool I've played with.
Sweet. Speaking of InfoSec, we all know that the entire industry, if you want to stay up to date, you gotta keep learning and pushing hard, right? There's so much stuff coming out every single day. Where do you see for yourself, like where do you want to go? What's the next thing you want to learn and study, and where do you see that you have to improve a lot?
I think as far as technical ability goes, I would like to learn a little bit more on the DevOps side. I know I'm working in that area at the moment, but I feel like my knowledge is probably lacking. Personally, a more personal opinion. I don't know what my manager thinks about that, but yeah, I think there's more to learn in that area for me, definitely. As far as where I want to go career-wise, though, I'm trying to at the moment get more into the cybersecurity career coaching side of things through my latest website, which it's just because it's something I enjoy so much. It's the first time in IT entirely where people have actually, really said thank you and actually meant it. Not just like, thanks for your service, more like, thank you, that meant so much to me and you really, really helped.
Coming from the heart, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That feeling is priceless. And it's the first time since doing anything in IT that I've sort of felt that feeling. So I'm pushing more towards that. I'm following my heart, essentially. So yeah, that's where I see myself going career-wise, but I think I'm a little bit away from achieving that goal money-wise anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sweet. I mean, good things take some time, but it will eventually come.
Exactly. That's it.
If you speak and you were saying you're mentoring a lot of people, so imagine me being like the hacker newcomer showing up in front of your door, and I'm like, DC, give me one advice. I only have 2 minutes. I got to run off. What's the best advice you can give me?
My best advice is to say, don't feel down when you don't know something, because nobody knows everything. For example, I don't know everything about DevOps, but I'm currently working in DevOps. So yeah, nobody knows everything. Keep going, and persistence is absolutely key, just like it is with so many other things in life. So don't let it get you down. If maybe you feel like you don't know enough, you will eventually know enough about that subject, at which point you'll probably move on to something else and then not know enough about that one. And the cycle continues. So I feel like being part of a community to bounce these ideas and thoughts off definitely helps me. And that's my own approach, but perhaps that would also help those out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just making this up as we speak, but it would be like learn, play, master, repeat, or something like that. I don't know. Keep going.
Pretty much, yeah. I think so.
Awesome. I do have a couple of fun questions for you right now. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
They're getting a little more ridiculous towards the end, so don't be surprised.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, would you rather want to record a video titled, and those are going to be clickbait titles right now, hacking sitting in my Lamborghini or hacking on top of Mount Everest?
Oh, inside Lamborghini.
Yeah, because you're a car guy?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd rather a Lamborghini than to climb Mount Everest. So that's where my thought process comes from on that one.
Right, and service would probably be terrible at Mount Everest, so it's hard to hack up there.
That too, actually. Yeah, yeah. Didn't think about that, but yeah.
um, would you rather get or learn get entrepreneurial advice from Elon Musk or from Bill Gates?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think probably Elon Musk, only because he, I believe, has more fingers in more interesting pies, whereas Bill Gates has sort of focused on one area mostly, apart from his charity organizations,
Right.
and sort of gone with that. So yeah, Elon Musk.
And he goes to space, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, not yet, but he probably will go soon. Yeah.
Yeah, not in person, but like his company is doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you rather try to hack a smart lamp or a smart air purifier?
Probably a lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think being able to turn someone's light off and on is potentially more annoying than a smelly thing. Although, yeah, it depends what the smell is, but yeah, yeah.
Right. Would you rather collaborate on a video with your country's prime minister or with Kylie Minogue? And I guess I was doing some research. Most famous Australian pop star, and Kylie Minogue popped up, so this is why I'm bringing her up right now.
Probably Kylie Minogue. I don't think the conversation with the prime minister of this country would be terribly interesting, but I think Kylie Minogue has a very interesting story to tell. Yeah, so yeah, I'd definitely rather talk with Kylie Minogue.
Yeah. Do you reckon she would understand what cybersecurity is all about?
Absolutely not. No, but I think I could, have some playful twists on it, and maybe use some hiring methodologies to explain it in a way that she's going to understand and be able to react to. Mm-hmm. I hope. Yeah.
And it would make a really good YouTube video having her.
It would be an absolute banger. Yeah.
Probably getting more views than the one we talked about earlier.
Exactly. I'd hope so. With yeah.
All right. One last one. A lot of people always say, like once I'm 50, once I'm 60, whatever, I will get out of the field of InfoSec because it's so fast paced and I'm becoming this and that. So would you rather become a surf instructor or a park ranger in a nice like wildlife park after your IT security career?
Surf instructor, I think. I having grown up near the ocean and not that close to any forests or bush, yeah, definitely the surf instructor. I think it'd be more fun as well.
Yeah, there's like better weather probably.
Less humid. I'm not a big fan of humidity, so usually jungles or parks or whatever are quite humid, and
right. And there's all the deadly
yeah.
animals there.
Well, yeah, there's deadly animals everywhere, but actually, I think they're still mostly in the ocean. The more deadly ones are in the ocean, like the jellyfish and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, I always think the other way around, but I mean, you probably know better. Right. Let's wrap this up. Do you have any final last words that you want to share with our audience? Do you have any shout outs? Anything you want to, release to the public?
Sure. I would like to mention the cybersecurity career coaching service that I'm offering at the moment. The website is www.cybersecguidance.com. There's some courses on there, and there's, I write my blogs on there. There's also the opportunity to book in a session and talk face-to-face over Zoom, and discuss your options and where to go. It's from the people I've talked to, it's fairly highly rated. So if their reviews are anything to go by, then yeah, I think it's a very good service to offer. So I would definitely like to shout that out. Also check out my YouTube channel, I guess, if you haven't. It's just search for DC
link
Cybersec.
that in the description section anyway. So
Cool.
you guys,
okay, yeah,
all the
Awesome.
folks out there can check that out.
Yep. And definitely check out Hacksplain's videos. I hear he's a pretty cool guy. He's got lots of great content on
Who's
there
that?
as well. Yeah, who's that guy? Yeah. So yeah, definitely check out his videos as well. Top dude.
Cheers, appreciate that. All right, once COVID allows again, I hope I will make it over to Australia. I have not been before, and then I will hopefully get the chance to meet up with you in person.
Absolutely. I'll show you around, man. We'll have a great time.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. And then you can be my surf instructor if you knew how to do that, because I have no idea.
I'm not that good at surfing, but my wife is pretty good at surfing actually. So
we'll rely on her.
Teach you. yeah, we'll rely on her skills rather than mine.
Sweet. Thanks again, DC, for being here. Talk to you soon, and yeah, thanks for being on the show again.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again, DC, for being on the show with us today. I really appreciated that you were coming on. In our next episode, we're going to talk to Stefan Rose, who is also known under his name Siutzak. And with that, please go down below in the comment section, and you really want to do that now, and tell us who we should interview next. And apart from that, subscribe in the top right corner, give this video a like, and I will see you folks soon.